welcome. Whoops, I get to take this off when I talk, I forgot. I'm Betty Folliard. I am the founder of ERA Minnesota, and I welcome you all here today. Today's a very auspicious day. We are celebrating. Today is the birthing day of the ERA. And so we are here in celebration and in recognition that today is the 2-year anniversary of the final ratification of the 38th state of the Equal Rights Amendment. And let me tell you what that means. Today, the ERA goes into effect, and members of Congress issued a resolution to Congress this morning to say that the Equal Rights Amendment, the language, equality of rights, is now encompassed in the Constitution and will now be referred to as the 28th Amendment. In addition, President Biden issued a statement, and there's a packet there for all the press. I want to make sure that you see it and that you gather one up so that you have this information. It has the President Biden's announcement today from the White House. I didn't bring in the resolution from Congress because it was a little bit longer, but you can pick it up on Jackie Spear's website. In addition, today, Senator Cardin, who is the chief author of SJ Res 1, which is the bill to remove the deadline on the Equal Rights Amendment federally, today he announced that there are 52 co-sponsors in the U.S. Senate. That's a majority of senators are on the ERA bill. And we all know what the issue is. The issue that remains for us and for voting rights and Build Back Better and making this place a better place for everybody to live right now is the filibuster. And the filibuster, a Jim Crow relic, is preventing the Equal Rights Amendment from immediately passing through the U.S. Senate. So nationally, the archivist's certification, which he has withheld, is not a necessary action, but would serve as a supportive action in our courts. From our perspective, ERA is the law, and our litigation is currently in the federal court, and it underscores that fact, that when the archivist doesn't go through certification of the 28th Amendment, it causes us injury in the public opinion, in the court of public opinion. So never in the history of this country has an amendment to the United States Constitution, having achieved all constitutional requirements set out by Article 5, that is being passed by both houses of Congress and ratified by 3/4 of the states, been stopped in its tracks by an arbitrary time limit until women's rights were on the docket. And now, we have done our part. We will not let a technicality stand in our way. So happy birthing day for the ERA. We declare this the equality session, right? Right. Yes, that's what we're here for. Now, you saw in our media advisory that there is a new ERA bill, and I have my 2 chief authors here to introduce it. Senator Sandy Pappas will speak next.
Thank you very much, Betty, and thank you for all your work on this issue. Well, women have waited over 200 years to be fully recognized as equal citizens. And today is that day, and as Betty Folliard said, we are celebrating the 28th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. As Betty said, the final ratification of the Equal Rights Amendment occurred on January 27th, 2020, and the ERA has now reached its 2-year waiting period after final ratification. So the 28th Amendment is now the law of the land, and we will uphold that law.
Hear, hear.
I swore an oath to uphold the Constitution, and I am duty-bound to confirm that the laws of Minnesota now comply with the U.S. Constitution. And this ERA compliance bill is the first step to achieving that goal. And we will be introducing this bill next week. It's a simple bill calling for the reviser in conjunction with Senate Council and House Research to do a thorough study of Minnesota laws and rules to ensure compliance with the 28th Amendment. It then asked them to create a bill for the 2023 session, pointing out any necessary changes that need to be made. I just want to, we have a great lineup of speakers here, and I just want to conclude by quoting Judge Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who said, and I agree with her, I would like my granddaughters, when they pick up the Constitution, to see that notion that women and men are persons of equal statute in the 28th Amendment. Thank you. And I'd like to introduce my chief author in the House, Representative Rena Moran.
And I agree with Judge Judy and also my Senator Sandy Pappas too. So I'm Representative Rena Moran, and I want to thank everyone involved in this effort over the years for their work, especially Betty Folliard, for her leadership, and relentless leadership, should I say. And I want to thank my partner in the Minnesota Senate, Sandy Pappas, for her persistence in advancing the cause of equal rights for women, session after session, year after year. More importantly than being a lawmaker, I am a mother and a grandmother. And I both witnessed and experienced discrimination, harassment, microaggressions, and unequal treatment that should be unacceptable for any woman to face in this day and age. We all know that our laws prohibit discrimination based on gender, but reality shows us that women still face far too many inequities, with women of color, indigenous women, immigrant women experiencing the biggest gap in pay, economic opportunity, health outcomes, and so much more. And that is why the ERA is so important. Right. Today is a pivotal day in our multi-generational movement to secure equal rights as we join women all across the country to take the next steps for Minnesota to comply with the ERA. We're putting forth a very simple bill, very simple. But it's a bill that will have a profound impact on women everywhere who deserve equality under the law, under our Constitution, and within our cultures. Basic human rights for women across our nation should be expected. Full equality without exceptions ought to be expected. What does it say about our nation as a whole when we fight lasting generations? What did I say? It's necessary, lasting generations is necessary to achieve what should be a basic expectation for all of us. The Equal Rights Amendment represents a recognition of how our nation has fallen short of the expectation its entire existence. We can do this. We have to do this. And it's time to move our state forward with this bill to help Minnesota quickly comply with the ERA. Let's do this. Thank you. And I would like to introduce the president of the ERA, Suzanne Wilhite.
Yes, thank you. Well, thank you. Matt can come down. I want to thank our leadership. We need leadership, and I really appreciate Senator Sandy Pappas and Representative Rena Moran. I also appreciate Betty. She carries the whip and makes all this happen. So, yes, I'm the new president of ERA Minnesota, and it's a big job as a volunteer because this is a big issue and it's very important. We have a number of bills. There's a printout of those bills at the back table that are being introduced in Minnesota. So you've heard about the federal Equal Rights Amendment. Great news, happy birthing day. And we're celebrating, But we are also working to get an equal rights amendment in our state constitution.
Here, here.
We do not have that, and it is necessary. There are federal level decisions that will go to the Supreme Court, and there will be decisions that go to our state court. And 26 other states already have an equal rights amendment.
Wow.
And so we are behind, we are in a minority. We need to catch up, we need to clean up our laws, and we need to have equality in our state constitution. The equality is long overdue, and it's sex discrimination that will really address this. So nationally, 80% of people think we already have it. Part of our problem is education, because they say, why do we need that? We already have it. No, we don't. And we need it in our state constitution as well. And 94% say we support it. So we have national support on an issue. It's not a partisan issue. It hasn't been in the past. It was introduced by Republicans way back when, and it's been in both party platforms. So it is an equality issue for all people. When the Constitution started out and they say, we the people, they kind of left us out.
Yeah.
But we want in, and we want in on an equal basis. So there will be bills introduced again in the state legislature to have an equal rights amendment in our state constitution. And here to speak on that are a couple of the authors of those bills. And we have Senator Mary Kunesh, who will speak to the Minnesota Equal Rights Amendment.
Good afternoon, I'm Senator Mary Kunesh. I represent District 41 and am a relatively new senator. I was in the House for 4 years, where I carried a piece of legislation that would use the word gender rather than sex in the Equal Rights Amendment. And in that, the discussion of that bill, our Republican counterpoints found issue with the use of that word. We used it as a way to be inclusive, to make sure that everybody is covered under this, this opportunity to be inserted into our state constitution. And we had a vigorous, kind of a bizarre discussion, both in our committee meetings as well as on the floor. And I can't thank all of these people, so many of these people that were there that day during our committees that supported this issue. It's not an issue of gender or sex, it's an issue of equality under the law, both at the federal level and at the state level. And so we will bring forward these pieces of legislation once again, using both sex and gender, so that those that are offended by the use of gender, and yes, it is a legal term within our state and our state legislature, to ensure that we finally, after how many years, how many decades, we have it explicitly stated within our state constitution, and it will be decided by the voters whether to have this in our state constitution, whichever version they choose. And so we're not going to give up. It's a birthing year in many ways. We have been nurturing this along for, the gestation period is well overdue. It's a birthing day, and now it's time for us to get that happening right here and right now. Many of us have children ourselves, we have grandchildren, and oftentimes we will speak to our granddaughters, our children, or nieces. But it's really an issue for everyone. And we want to make sure that no matter what your gender, what your situation is, you have that equality under law. And it's time that Minnesota does that and joins those other states that already have that. So thank you for being here and celebrating this birthday with us. And next, I would like to invite Representative Kristen Bonner to speak on her behalf.
Thank you, Senator. My name is State Representative Kristen Bonner. I represent Maple Grove and Osseo. And I just want to say, the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the state of Minnesota, is a document that is about our values. It's about the foundational principles of who we are as people, as citizens. Our creators said, even in their declaring documents, that they believed in the concept of equality, of freedom of all of our citizens. But for over 200 years, a good number of our citizens have not had that equality. We have created a patchwork, a fabric of laws with the illusion that women have equality under the law. But when it comes right down to it, we do not. Justice Anton Scalia even stated that while the Constitution certainly does not encourage discrimination on the basis of sex, it also doesn't forbid it. And because of that, that means that every time a woman is discriminated against and goes all the way to the Supreme Court, her chances of success, despite all of our fabric of laws, is literally the roll of a dice. That stops now, and it stops today. The 28th Amendment says loud and clear, crystal clear, that women have the right to equality under the law. It says that all people, regardless of your gender, have equality under the law, the highest law of the land. I am so proud to be one of the authors of the ERA at the state level. Not only do we need to do it at the federal level, we need to make sure that our values are represented in the highest law of the land in the state of Minnesota, and that is our state constitution. It is long past due. There is not one senator, not one representative that can look me in the eye, that can look their constituents in the eye and tell them that they should not be treated as equal under the law. In fact, quite frankly, I dare them. So with that, I am proud to be the author of one of these bills. I am proud of the bill that Rena and Sandy have brought forward. The senators have brought this bill forward because we need to ensure that the laws of the state of Minnesota, that as lawmakers, as good stewards of the law, that we have a statute that absolutely reflects the values of who we are as a nation, but also as a state. Thank you for being here today and for your time.
And I'll turn it over next because we have a special guest to speak today, and that is Angelica Klipsch, who is representing Attorney General Keith Ellison. Angelica, would you like to come up and you can take off your mask?
Thanks, Becky. Hi, my name is Angelica Klipsch. I'm the Senior Policy Advisor to Attorney General Keith Ellison, and I'm here to speak on his behalf, and he is in full support of passage of the ERA into the state constitution. We fully recognize that women are facing discrimination in all aspects of life, many, many sectors, and that there are still gender-specific barriers to women's economic prosperity and mobility. And that's why the Attorney General convened a task force of 15 members that have been looking at these issues with a broad cross-section of perspectives and life experiences. The community and the data is there, the research for improving access to caregiving resources, who is not facing issues with childcare these days. So we are very thankful for Betty and the rest of the coalition's work on this issue. I personally am appreciative of their efforts that have paved the road for women like me to be able to step into leadership opportunities like these. And so we look forward to continuing to partner with them and see what we can get done this year. Thank you.
Thank you. So now we are going to open it up for questions, and you can ask any of our legislators or Suzanne or I any questions. So are there questions from the floor?
Well, I'll ask one. So the bill that's here, it's to create a study to kind of go through all state laws, statutes, and look for bias, inequality. Like, what's it really what are you after, I guess?
Right. We're actually after fixing the laws to make sure they're consistent with equality for women. And we actually, a while ago, we did go through our statutes and made sure that the language was gender neutral. So we do have less work. Other states have not done that.
Yeah.
So I think this won't be a huge job for research to do. And then if there are issues where it's a policy decision, then that will come back to the legislature to make that decision.
Right.
But we're just looking for any kind of inconsistencies. I really don't know exactly what might be out there until they do that research.
Mm-hmm. Other questions? Did you want to say something, Lena?
I mean, you know, it's simple, right? We want to just make sure as lawmakers that we are aligning with the 28th Amendment to the Constitution.
Mm-hmm.
Very simple, but very, very important that we do that as lawmakers.
Yes.
So,
Thank you.
The only other question that I would ask then is someone said earlier that most people think that we already have equal rights, that women already have equal rights. So this is maybe in some ways symbolic or not. Could you just address, the implications of what this
Of course,
really
that's a very fair question. And I can tell you that, of course, symbols matter. Ring on your finger matters. It tells you something. If you're willing to fight and die for your country, for a flag, that flag is a symbol that means something. So symbols are important, but no, the Equal Rights Amendment actually goes further than that. We have several examples of cases that have gone all the way to the Supreme Court and been turned back because protection on the basis of sex gets a lower scrutiny than those things that are named in the Constitution. So, country of origin and race and religion, and I would argue guns. Many people think that those are protected in the Constitution because there are words to that effect. But there is no protection for constitutional, for protections against sex discrimination. As I say, we've got the actual court cases that have been turned back. I wanted to mention that that little bill, which is coming out this year, is a national push. There are other states that are doing it right now. And in addition, it's asking the reviser and with legal counsel of the Senate and the House research to look at the laws and code and come back to with a bill for next session. So that's how that process will work. Our result will be far shorter than Arizona's. As Sandy mentioned, Arizona, that other states didn't do what we did in the 90s here by just taking some of the gender language out. But they came back with their report that was done by 40 lawyers over a period of months, pro bono, by the way, that was 650 pages long. So if you want to look on the Arizona information, you can look and see what they have. Ours will be much shorter than that. And one other thing, we haven't said it enough. One other thing I want to say, and that is that the Equal Rights Amendment is for all. All means all, because it will affect women, men, LGBT, transgender, non-binary people. It will protect everybody in the country. And equal rights amendments in state constitutions have been around, most of them have been around for 40 years. You heard there were 26 of them. And the longest has been around for 140 years. And in those cases, there's nothing diabolical that happened, nothing catastrophic or it's not the end of the world when you get an ERA. It's a good thing because it protects us against discrimination. It gives the courts and Congress the power to act on it.
Mm-hmm. I have two examples that I can give you. One is we do have pay equity laws for businesses that have more than, I think more than $500,000 worth of business with the state of Minnesota. They have to demonstrate that they have implemented a pay equity. This would expand that to be any business, for example. The other example that we've already identified for a few years is our own Minnesota Constitution. And that is gender specific. It calls the governor he, for example, and any other officer, it uses the term he. And Kristen, are you the author of that bill too?
I am.
Yeah, Kristen is authoring that in the House. To change that language, it would have to be a constitutional amendment to change the language to make it gender neutral, to call the governor, and not he.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Just a quick note on that piece. One other note about that particular bill. It's worth noting that there is a section of the bill that addresses our Chief Supreme Court Justice. As many of you are aware, our head Supreme Court Justice, Lori Gildea, has actually been our head Supreme Court Justice for quite some time. We were able to clean up all of the statute back in the 80s, but the one thing we never got around to conforming was our Constitution. And quite frankly, I think it's time to make sure that that document actually is representative of the people of Minnesota and the roles in which we play in society. I think that's really fundamental to see yourself reflected in that document. And that is true of any constitutional document. And when it comes to the idea of why we need the ERA, this is a little bit the metaphor that I often use to explain to people. A house is only as strong as its foundation. We have created this patchwork of laws to attempt to give ourselves equality, but what we've really done is created a house of cards. If we don't have a solid foundation for that house, the house will topple. That is why when you go to the Supreme Court to assert your rights under the law, right now, without a higher level of scrutiny, that means without the justices saying, yes, you are included in the law, the highest law of the land, you are included. Without that there, on the bottom line, we are literally rolling the dice every time we take a case to court, which means that we really don't have the fulfillment of the expectation of equality under the law. That is why we must have equality under the law on the federal level and the state level. It speaks to who we are.
And any other questions? No? Thank you.
We'll
Thank you.
mention the rally.
Oh yes, thank you. A little advertisement. Monday at 11 a.m. in the Rotunda, we have our 25 plus co-sponsors at ERA Minnesota with a plethora of chief authors, and the Lieutenant Governor and the AG will be in the house along with Speaker Hartman and Minority Leader Melissa Franzen. Will all be speaking at the rally on behalf of the Equal Rights Amendment on day one for ERA. So happy birthday day for the ERA. Happy birthday day, ladies and gentlemen.